Welcome to knocking over a paint pot on your wife's favourite tablecloth, and now you're stuck on the couch. Previously I had painted the Magneto bust from Sanix. In that video I told you that I had painted 4 of them, but you would have only noticed that there was only 2. That's because 2 of the other ones had helmets on, so I painted 4 in total. There are indeed 4 Magneto busts available to purchase in order to help the channel. So as part of one of the videos that I recently done about Army Painter's new skin set, I painted up multiple busts. These were Magneto busts, sculpted by the wonderful Sanix. The link for Sanix is in the description below. The other 2 had helmets on, and here's what they look like. And I'm now going to make them available for purchase. There is only 3 left of the 4 that were originally painted. I will be selling these for £30 each. These were painted in order to make the video and show you guys how that paint was used, and it would be really cool if I could use some of the things that I make to help fund future projects on this channel. Best way to get a hold of one of these if you would like to get one is to contact me on Instagram or Facebook. There is only 3 of them left. One of them has a helmet, the other 2 are the bare heads. The other 2 are the plain head sculpt. The other 2 are just the head sculpt. Hopefully it doesn't irritate you that I have to shield myself like this in order to pay the bills at the end of the month. Thank you for hanging around and enjoy the video. Bruh. I already coated these with a base coat of dark silver. I have then given them a clear gloss and I'm now painting the lettering. Starting with the skin. I always start with a black base coat. In this instance it's going to make absolute sense because underneath the insides of the helmet we want dark so that even though I can't get to those areas to paint them, it would appear that they were painted anyway. In between coats of skin tone, I'll use the hairdryer to make sure that the time that I'm spending on painting the bases of these skin tones doesn't take as long if I had to leave it to dry naturally. I started off with the base coat of black and then I laid onto that blue violet from Vallejo. I needed to make them look metallic now, so I used a metallic medium from Pro Acryl and mixed purples into this. And I continued to build up the volumes of that purple. I then went back in with a purple tone from Army Painter to give it a deeper look to the recesses and to make sure there was more variation in the purples. I often watch things on my phone while I'm working on things like this. It helps me to pass the time and also makes it not seem like a lonely job. This is a cool trick you may or may not know about. You can use blue tack, or in my case it is actually pink tack after the amount of times I've painted with it. You can use this to mask off areas that you want to protect from the next layer of paint. In this case, I have masked off the faces as the faces' skin tones were completely done. So I'm going to mask them off and I'm going to spend the time making sure that this covers everything that I don't want to be covered by the next layer of paint. I will trim away some of the excess. I'll also fold it over and use that to pack in other areas that it didn't reach to. It's a really good way of doing masks without having to deal with pesky masking tape. I then used Flesh Tearers Red, which is a contrast paint from Games Workshop, to coat the entire helmet. And then it's as easy as just taking off the blue tack. Coming back in with the blue violet from Vallejo again, and I'm going to do all the edges around the trimming of this mask. At first you don't have to be too careful, you just have to make sure you keep your angle of your brush so that it stays on the edge only of that part. Later on you need to come back a little bit more carefully and get all the edges around the edge of that trimming. Gluing that head onto the base and you can really start seeing some progress happening now. In order to paint the lips, I'm going to mix the base skin tone with a tiny bit of red to create a little bit of blood and life. Now painting the eyes, I'm going to start with a black base coat. This is something that you want to take your time with. This is what's going to frame the eye. This is my favorite part of all the paintings that I do. This is where you bring life into the model and make it look like something that wasn't alive is now living and staring you straight back in the eye. Carefully going in with a white because this is now going to shape the actual eyeball itself. Being super careful with this, you can see this in real time. This is how slow my hand moves while I'm trying to put that white in. I'm being extremely careful. These eyes aren't going to need any pupils, so I'm just going to put on a clear coat and gloss those lips and call it a day. In In the last video, I had announced who the winner was for the wet palette competition. I announced this in the center of the video on purpose because I wanted to make sure that the winner of the wet palette was someone supporting the channel and actually watching the videos. Obviously, I can't say for sure that the person who did win was not watching the video. There might be something going on in their lives that they couldn't have watched last video. But I'd like to ask you guys what you think I should do in this situation. Should I contact them personally, or do you think I should pass it on to the next person who is actually watching the channel? I'll leave that up to you guys to discuss in the comments below. As you know, the channel now has a Patreon. This is the easiest way you can support future videos and keep this channel going. And as such, we have a couple new Patreons who need a welcome and thank for their support to the channel. Jim Allen, Phil Videmar, and I'm probably gonna say everybody's names wrong, so please accept it how it is. TJ Thompson, and not High Contrast. I'd just like to say thank you to all of you who have signed up to a Patreon. This really does help pay for the small things that help keep this channel going, and I appreciate every bit of support that you guys are offering. If you managed to make it this far in the video, perhaps you should click that like button, and consider subscribing. Because we all know, if you don't like it, the only thing you got left to do is fuck off. Thank you for coming, please come again soon.